Welcome to CH-AI Brews, your go-to podcast for all things AI at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I'm your host, Daniel Duggin, with a bachelor's in computer science pursuing a master's in computer science. In each episode, we'll talk about the ways AI is revolutionizing education. We'll explore how AI is transforming teaching, learning, and our community. Whether you're a student, an educator, or simply curious about the future of learning, this podcast is for you.
Yeah, so my name's Sarah Joyner with the Chattanooga Tourism Co, and it's really our job to get people to want to come visit Chattanooga. So we kind of attack that in three different ways. We entice the leisure visitor to come have a quick trip or a longer stay here in Chattanooga. We also have a meetings team that they go out and they get people who are hosting conferences, different meetings and events. And then we have our sports division. So they're bringing in events like the 2 Ironman events that we have once a year, state football championships like Blue Cross Bowl and the women's soccer championship here, and just tons of events. So we want those people coming to Chattanooga and spending their money here with our businesses and helping our community.
How do you all advertise those events, whether it's state championships or whether it's Ironmans like you had mentioned? What's the process of advertising those beyond just downtown, Hickson, Red Bank, and places like that?
Ooh, so many ways. We are really lucky to work with a creative agency who does a ton of international and national media buying for us. Something that's really cool with the Blue Cross Bowl specifically. So, we know where these high school teams are coming from once it gets down to the very end. And we can do really targeted digital marketing to the zip codes of where those high schools are to let those people know, like, hey, your team's coming to Chattanooga, come cheer them on. So that is really fun getting to get as targeted as that. Other ways is, just for like the leisure traveler, we're going to end up on a lot of different websites, be a part of different email campaigns, and we also have commercials that are going to be just showing up on those streaming services. And those are you won't see those if you're a Chattanooga community member, but if you are in some of our markets that we are targeting, you're definitely going to be seeing that.
And with that, you mentioned digital marketing, and I noticed that y'all's site is through just the visitchattanooga.com site. So how does outreach for, again, those events work through the website, and do y'all still get a lot of traffic on that website? Because I noticed one thing that's pretty AI related is when you search for something, Copilot will typically summarize what you're searching for, so it kind of cuts down on the need to really actually click on the website, and I know that hurts site traffic and kind of skews analytics a little bit. So I was just curious if y'all deal with anything like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of something that has been part of conversations that we're having at the tourism company for digital marketing, and it's something kind of more industry-wide that we're having conversations about. And so kind of making sure that our content is not only like SEO friendly and the Googles of the world are wanting to send their pages to us, but so that now they're wanting to trust us as a resource and use our information up at the top. I think there will still be some more changes coming along. We'll see how that goes. But
in your view, has the tourism field in general welcomed AI?
So I feel like just a couple of years ago, people were so fearful of AI. I think on our marketing team, we embraced it a lot sooner than some folks. Just being able to, use it for content. So on our social medias, we did beta testing, and this was maybe 2 years ago, where you could DM our Instagram at VisitChat, and with just a couple of questions, it would ask you, what are your interests? What time of year do you think you might be visiting Chattanooga? It would just create an entire itinerary for you right there. So we've kind of experimented with that in some different ways on social media, in just kind of the industry in general. I've definitely now seen it embraced a lot more with website chatbots, things like that, analyzing data. We get a ton of data, and that's kind of one of our jobs, is to make sure that we can share that with our partners, but also share it in a way that is digestible for them, because data is a lot and it can be translated in many different ways. So AI has been really helpful in kind of recognizing patterns for us that either we didn't recognize before, or just putting it in a much more easier, palatable manner. In my day-to-day, I'd say, so I have a background as a writer. I was really fearful at first, like with ChatGPT coming out, because I thought, oh my God, am I going to be replaced? Quickly saw that's probably not the case, but it's definitely become kind of using different AI tools. Like, it's kind of embarrassing to say ChatGPT because I feel like that's kind of old school now, but Writer's In, Word Hero, which helps with website content, our blogs, our SEO, but kind of going back to things like ChatGPT it's easy to work with as like a colleague who's very neutral and non-judgmental, and you can kind of bounce ideas out off of. So it's been great for sticking with our brand. I'm able to kind of upload our brand voice and all of the pillars, our vision, kind of give the idea of what we want to do. And everything from just helping me with a rough draft or overview for content when I get writer's block and I'm stuck with a new blog or stuck on creating content for a new page, or if I've had an intake meeting with someone who I'd consider my client, someone within our office, and I have a jumbled mess of meeting notes and I need to kind of get that much more easier to read and in a creative brief so that I can share that back out with our team and kind of continue our project.
Right. So fields like tourism are really interesting to me because I know that AI can affect them, but since that's not something I look at too often or am really familiar with, I'm curious what the success rate of your experience using AI is, whether it's at work or whether it's at home or maybe planning your own trip somewhere else, and if you've learned anything that you apply to building the website.
I think it's helped us hone in on trying to make sure that whatever resources we have out there in the digital space are actually correct and up to date, so that it's not suggesting that you go to a restaurant that's been closed for 6 months. We've had influencers and media who have come to Chattanooga and then very clearly written a blog or an article through AI, and we had to really quickly go back through and correct a lot of information about this restaurant's actually not in that location, it's in a different one. But I think for the most part, AI and its influence on the work that we do and that we're doing every day has been very positive.
Do you have any examples of maybe some of the blogs that were clearly written by AI and how you guys were able to pick those apart from ones from people that actually went to these locations?
Oh man, some of the biggest giveaways are when the article describes something as a tapestry, or every statement begins with nestled in North Chattanooga or nestled in the heart of downtown. That can be a pretty quick trigger, just the kind of the vocabulary that it uses. That can trigger us. And then, yeah, that was definitely an article where we had someone come into town, and that was every statement kind of used those exact same words and had a lot of incorrect information.
So before we had started, you had mentioned that your staff is right around 32, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So when AI rolled out, what was the initial reaction of it, and how has that changed over the course of the last probably year and a half?
Okay. So I think, like I said, our marketing department embraced it really quickly, but I think there were a lot of very easy tools to use for someone who works in marketing to kind of just grab and run with. I remember, so in our office, we have these things called PPOs. It's your personal performance objective. It's like the annual goals that you're going to have, and your supervisor helps you with them. And my supervisor, one of my three is embracing AI tools, like I mentioned, Writer's End, Word Hero, and finding ways to enhance our website and our content using these AI tools. And our HR team, they review every single one of these PPOs before it gets finalized, and they freaked out. They're like, whoa, what are we doing with AI, And from their perspective, it was, are we uploading data or private information into this thing and we don't know if it's secure or not? I think we've been able to backtrack and, we use common sense and kind of recognize what we should be doing and what we shouldn't. And it's definitely been a lot more embraced recently. Yeah.
So looking at the site right now, I was curious, so there's an option for, there's accessibility options. I was curious if you have used AI in that regard and if it's given you any more insights on accessibility for the site and just advertising in general.
Yeah, I would say like that we just are really lucky. That's a software that comes with our content management system. But I can't remember the name of the AI tool that I used. I recently plugged in our website and just told it to grade my website. I gave it a URL and it definitely came back and kind of graded the accessibility. It graded our load times from the videos that we have on certain pages, because here in Chattanooga we have super fast internet and we take that for granted. But if someone's not in Chattanooga and they're looking at our website that has this video that's taking forever to load, something to think about. So,
are there any new skills you have acquired using AI, and is that something that you all are starting to look for when looking for new hires, and is that something that everyone that you work with is starting to become comfortable with and efficient with?
Yeah, I think basic tasks, being able to have AI, it makes you so much more efficient. And I think that basically the typical professional worker is going to have to be comfortable with AI because they're not going to be able to keep up in the future. Basic skills that I've learned, I'm still pretty young in my profession, and I think I said this before, but AI for me has been that really neutral, non-judgmental colleague. So if I am trying to kind of gather my thoughts for a meeting that is intimidating or a really difficult conversation that I might need to have with a coworker, I can type it out how I'm feeling and the emotional side and then kind of ask it, put this in corporate speak for me, please. And that is so helpful. Makes me sound a lot more intelligent and put together than I am.
If you were to start college now, are there any AI skills that you found relevant now that you would want to be taught as you're going through your collegiate career?
Ooh, I think really just knowing that you could do more than write something with AI. So I manage our internship program at Chattanooga Tourism, and I mentioned to our intern she's a communications major, so she helps me with writing a ton, and still kind of working in the web, it's still really helpful to know some basic like HTML and JavaScript coding, because sometimes you're going to want to do a little something and kind of break the barrier that you have. And so I was showing her, I came from this is going to really date me, but I came from the days of MySpace. So HTML and changing out my profile it's super easy for me because that was what I did all throughout my teenage years. But this was still a little foreign to her. And so I was showing her, I was like, here's how you could manipulate this code in ChatGPT if you wanted to, if you wanted to plug this in and tell it, how could I change it from this to this? And it'll definitely do that for you. So just knowing that there's so much more to it, definitely.
Right. And a lot of the things we've talked about in all of these interviews is how Chattanooga is a very forward-looking and entrepreneurial city. Does that show up in tourism at all? And are there any plans to maybe advertise workshops that are for AI? Maybe if UTC does one or other companies around here do one, is that in the plans for the future as far as keeping people up to date that visit the site on what's going on with AI, especially in Chattanooga?
Yeah, definitely. If those are coming up, that's something that we want to advertise. It's something that kind of, from the marketing standpoint, we try to, I mentioned brand voice. We're trying to identify what is the personality that Chattanooga has, and that entrepreneurial spirit, and that spirit of just being people who see something that needs to be done and just going out and figuring it out and doing it, failing up, opening up these amazing local restaurants that we have, all of the entrepreneurship that we have going on here in Chattanooga. That is definitely part of the personality and who we are and what we want to showcase to people if they want to come visit Chattanooga.
Right. And for those that are interested in getting into the tourism field or just communications and marketing in general, what advice would you give them if they're soon to enter the workforce or are already in the workforce on starting to become familiar with these AI tools since they're not going anywhere?
Yeah, I would say one, and just be open to trying new things. I started out in my career with one really specific thing that I was good at. I was a writer. I thought that's all that I was ever going to be, and then was just given opportunities to try new things, and that just definitely spread out my career, and I found that I was good at a lot of other things and enjoyed doing a lot of other things. And I think kind of the same thing goes with AI. You can get really specific with AI too. I think sometimes you could put something really generic in and get a really crappy response out of it. But if you really know what you want and you continue to kind of pick away at it, it can come back with something really beautiful.
This has been Sarah Joyner, and I'm Daniel Duggin. Thanks for tuning in. The music in this podcast is by Blue Dot Sessions. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. You can find this and all episodes of CH-AI Brews at wutc.org/podlab or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, keep learning and exploring the possibilities of AI.